have now.
I have, yeah.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is that it's based on atheism.
Well,
The French Revolution was based on atheism.
that's actually
and
not true.
Communism, by definition,
Communists forbade religions because they didn't want a competitor to their
that's
ideology.
because they were atheistic.
The problem wasn't that they didn't believe in a higher power. The problem was that they were promoting a utopian ideology. The problem is with any utopian ideology that any competitor to that is viewed as an impediment to reaching that utopia. I'll bring up Hitler. It was exactly the same thing. The brown shirts and the Nazis were wiping out the Jews because they scapegoated them. They saw them as an impediment to their perfect Aryan race. The communists saw believers as an impediment to their perfect Marxist utopia.
And is there anything wrong with that?
Absolutely, and
Why?
that's exactly what religion does.
Yeah,
What
right.
more utopian ideology than heaven itself?
But there is the atheistic utopia. They were going
It has
to bring it
nothing to-
upon earth. Yes, it is.
The problem in communist Russia had nothing to do with too much reason. All right, the problem was a utopian ideology, and they were absolutely wrong about that. There's no question about that. Atheism is atheism. A meaning
But
not
you're saying they're wrong.
theist.
How?
It's not an. It's
wrong
not a
on
rule.
what? They controlled Russia. They controlled Russia. You know, the French controlled the French Revolution. They controlled France. So what they were doing, what was wrong? Within Russia, with atheism at the helm, what was wrong?
Atheism was,
You're appealing to a higher standard.
no, I'm appealing
Yes, you
to the
are.
standard of reason.
Well, that,
What was at the helm with communist Russia was Marxism. That was the ideology. They wanted to eliminate belief.
was Marxism wrong?
Was Marxism right? It was a failed experiment, sure. It was wrong because
As it failed.
it was wrong because it didn't take into account the necessity of the natural human greed in which capitalism taps into. So that's why capitalism has beaten Marxism.
Well, we have to be careful there, because if I'm not mistaken, capitalism violates one of the 10 Commandments, and wasn't Jesus communist?
He was.
I don't know where you get that
Mhm.
reasoning, but you seem to be appealing to a higher morality, but yet you say there is no, it's all relative to the society.
No,
So,
never said that.
well, if Hitler won World War II, and he annihilated all the Jews, and whatever other group, would he have been wrong?
Would he have been?
Yeah, not, the whole world is Nazi right now.
It's immoral. Which aspect of
Immoral
that?
based on what?
Are you talking
It
about
does harm.
killing the Jews?
No, the whole thing, the Nazism won.
Yeah.
And he killed the Jews and the Slavics and whoever else
Right.
that was in there. And we're all now under, the whole world is Nazism. What Hitler did, would that be wrong?
Are you talking about killing the people
Yeah, the whole
specifically?
thing, the whole thing.
It's objectively wrong.
Why?
We can play that thought experiment. It's objectively wrong because it reduces human well-being.
Yeah.
No, in his eyes, it increased well-being. You got rid of the
No.
riffraff of the element.
was
You got
wrong.
rid of inferior people. Now you've got this great society. By your definition, it was good.
No, it was not good. I
He
never
believed-
said it was good.
But he believed he was increasing evolution. They were
Because he-
getting rid of the weak and those that were inferior.
What we've come to, though, is interesting is, believe it or not, is there actually has been, right now, that there is a common ground, that we do believe there is an objective morality that's in place, that there are definitive right and wrongs, which is interesting. We've come to this conclusion, which is good. And that's what the last segment was on about morality. It was good discussion. But we've come to that we do agree that there is objective right and wrongs. You know, and obviously circumstances dictate that.
Basis is completely different.
Yes, they
Our
are.
basis
Absolutely.
is by God that has a law that's runs the universe. There's a moral law, just like there's the law of gravity. There's a moral law that
Yes, there
runs
is.
the universe.
And with that moral
But there,
law,
it's all relative to them.
but with that moral law, the objective right and wrongs that we agree to, that there has to be a judge also that we answer to in our realm of society. And that judge, if he's a good judge, will punish right or wrong, which we got to earlier.
Every
If he's a good judge.
every step, every moral advancement over the years has been done in spite of religion, not because of religion. Religion has been dragged kicking and screaming to where we are now, past issues like slavery, past issues like having the rape victim marry their attacker. Not because of divine revelation, not because we found it in the Holy Book, not because competing religions have come with some sort of enlightenment. It's because we've applied our own reason and understanding that these things are wrong. We've increased our knowledge, the superior knowledge. Now we understand things better. As science does, it self-corrects. Secular morality has a self-correcting mechanism that as we gain more information, we make better decisions about what's correct, and we've dragged religion along with it, and it's to religion's credit that you have been able to accept secular morality even against your own Bible.
I don't accept abortion, I'm sorry. I don't accept that as, that's a secular morality in America. I don't accept that. I take offense at you saying that. I think it's barbarian to take a 8-month baby out of the womb, crack the skull open, suck the brains out, and say that that's moral. I'm sorry, I cannot accept it.
Right.
I do not accept the secular morality of saying two men living in a, quote, marriage relationship is normal. No, the relationship that's established by God in the marriage is a man and a woman. I do not accept secular morality. We are degenerating. We are not getting better.
Let me help Mike out a little bit. I think where you were going with this, you're trying to drill down into what ultimately would end up when it was called the urethral dilemma. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or not. It's a Greek philosopher that asked the question, is an act or is a commandment from God moral because it comes from God? Or does God command it because it's moral? And that's a dilemma that's never really been sufficiently answered. What you're implicitly doing is when you're saying there's a command from God, and I've heard the argument, you're going to say the command is inherently moral because that is part of God's nature. When you do that, I'll just point out, when you do that, what you're doing is applying an external standard of morality to God. At the same time, you're saying that God is the author of the standard. That's classic circular reasoning. You need a standard to start with, and that's why I said that's what morality is increasing well-being.
And our standard is Jesus Christ.
Actually, where I was going, about the objective right and wrong, that you would say it's happened over time, secular reasoning and so on, where we know, regardless, that it's wrong to murder out of just sheer pleasure to kill somebody. We know that's wrong. Right. So that's what we're saying, that the source for morality did come from God, and it's put in us. That the Apostle Paul said that he put the law within our hearts. We know what's wrong, what's right. Our conscience. We talked about creation earlier as evidence of God. We talk about our conscience. We have a conscience. Even the most seared person, even probably, what was the guy with in the 60s there, Charles Manson. Even he would have a conscience of sorts.
Well, he was a psychopath, which means
there
was a defect.
To know right from wrong.
There was a mental.
But there still is an area of right and wrong. Everybody has, whether it be seared or not. That's what we're getting at. That there's a source for that. That's what we're getting at. That it didn't just kind of get figured out over millions of years or thousands of years. That it would have been implicitly put in us, like the Bible will talk about. It would be evidence of God's handiwork within us.
I can give you an example of it.
We have to close real quick.
All right, very quick thought experiment. Imagine a society that did not have that knowledge, that inherent knowledge that you believe that God puts into us, that killing is right and wrong. Right. They would, for very little reason, be killing each other, and they would be wiped out. They would wipe themselves out.
There's tribes that were reached by missionaries that almost did that.
Right, they'd almost wipe themselves out.
Because they use killing as justice.
Exactly, the tribal mentality and so forth. So doesn't it make sense from an evolutionary perspective that those societies that figured out that killing each other wasn't really the best way to propagate your species would be the ones that would have tended to survive?
But we do it all the time still.
And pass on that, but we do it much less than we used to. And
do it in again, like you're talking about. So we'll go back to abortion, but we're just saying.
You can imagine the society that didn't do it. Like you said, there are tribes that were dwindling because they hadn't figured that out, and they hadn't been able to evolve that trait on. Those that did.
The Western world is killing itself by not producing children. It cannot sustain this. It is imploding, and they're either aborting their children or they're not having children. It doesn't make sense based on your thinking. They are destroying themselves, yet they are because of the sin nature. It's the sin nature. And I can give you one absolute that is never correct at any time.